Not every force in heaven speaks. Not every power glows with beauty or sings in choirs or descends with flaming swords. Some simply exist, quiet, unmoving, impossible to ignore once you've noticed them. In the vast order of angels, where most are messengers, protectors, or warriors, there's one group that stands apart, not because they act, but because they don't. They don't cry out, they don't interfere, and yet nothing moves without them. These are the thrones. You won't find them offering guidance in dreams or casting out demons. Their role is deeper than that. They're the unseen presence that makes judgment possible, the silent architecture that holds everything in place, and the more you dig into their nature, the more unsettling it becomes. This isn't a story about comfort or inspiration. It's about weight, stillness, fire that doesn't burn the way we understand it. So let's talk about the thrones, the ones who never speak, never move without purpose, and never, ever look away. Long before the thrones became fixed in the celestial order, their nature emerged from a deeper current, one tied not to sound or speech, but to motion, light, and law. In the earliest glimpses preserved through Scripture, especially the writings of the prophet Ezekiel, there is no mention of names, no roll call of angelic choirs. Instead, there are visions, overwhelming and strange, of wheels burning with fire, filled with eyes, moving in harmony with the spirit of something far greater than themselves. The thrones were not described in words meant for casual understanding. They were recorded in images that bordered on incomprehensible, as if even their earliest witness could barely hold the vision together. In this vision, the thrones are not introduced as soldiers, nor as singers of praise. They do not speak. They do not question. They are shown in motion, wheels within wheels, burning with a flame that does not consume, responding not to whim or voice, but to will itself. They move in tandem with the presence of the divine, and it is from this movement, this obedience without hesitation, that their nature is understood. Before diving deeper into their role, it's worth stepping back for a moment to place them within the larger angelic order. In Christian angelology, especially as refined by early thinkers like Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite, the heavenly host is structured into a hierarchy of 9 choirs, divided into 3 tiers or spheres. Each sphere serves a different function in the divine order, from those closest to God to those more involved with the created world. We've already explored the seraphim, those closest to the divine fire, burning with pure love, and the cherubim, radiant with divine knowledge. But the thrones occupy a different kind of space, one that is quieter, stranger, and older than it appears. The thrones are positioned alongside the seraphim and cherubim in the first sphere, the highest of the 3. But while the seraphim burn and the cherubim illuminate, the thrones carry a more hidden responsibility. They do not reveal God's love or intellect. They enact God's justice. They bear His throne, not as a platform of stone, but as a principle of balance. They hold the weight of divine order. In this, they are less like messengers or warriors and more like a foundation, permanent, unmoving, absolute. By the time early Christian thinkers formalized the hierarchy, the thrones were understood not as assistants, but as conduits. They existed to bear the presence of God, not physically, but spiritually, upholding the framework by which divine judgment passes into reality. In simpler terms, they're not literally holding up a chair in heaven, they're upholding the concept of divine authority and order. They're the invisible structure that lets God's justice flow from idea into action. They don't act on their own. They simply make sure everything stays aligned with divine law. What makes the thrones unique is not just their rank, but their restraint. In a universe of movement and change, they are the still point, the absolute law behind shifting appearances. From the earliest texts to the writings of mystics and theologians, this has remained consistent. The thrones are silent, impartial, unshaken. They do not seek, they do not follow. They are already where they must be. They were not made for war. They were not made for love. They were made for balance, and without them, the structure of heaven would not stand. The thrones defy conventional form. They are not beings one could sculpt from marble or sketch with accuracy. Their appearance, preserved in the haunting vision of Ezekiel and mirrored in later apocalyptic imagery, is symbolic, surreal, and overwhelming. They are not described as humanoid, nor do they possess faces that reflect familiarity or comfort. Instead, they are seen as wheels, massive, interlocking, and alive. These are not ordinary wheels. The prophet's words describe them as a wheel within a wheel, spinning in unison, moving in any direction without turning. This motion isn't mechanical. It is purposeful, fluid, and absolute. Every axis serves a divine intention. The wheels are not separate from the spirit that animates them. They respond instinctively, as if bound to an unseen will. But the most jarring feature of the thrones is their eyes. Covered entirely, rim to rim, surface to depth, with countless unblinking eyes, they radiate watchfulness. These eyes do not blink. They do not weep. They do not close in sleep. They are not eyes of emotion, but of perception, seeing not only what is, but what aligns or deviates from divine order. To behold them is to feel examined by something ancient, unflinching, and beyond appeal. They burn, too, not with earthly fire, but with a brilliance that signals purity, not destruction. Flames engulf them, but the fire does not consume. It refines. It reveals. This flame is not punishment, but clarity. Wherever the thrones move, deception cannot remain hidden. Not because they speak it aloud, but because their presence alone causes disorder to collapse. No wings, no robes, no hands. Only eyes, wheels, and fire, bound in a form that is less about expression and more about function. Their shape is not arbitrary. It reflects what they are: vessels of movement without deviation, observation without bias, purity without sentiment. The thrones do not look human because they were never meant to comfort. They do not share in creation's image. They serve the order that governs creation. It's this form, cold, brilliant, unreadable, that sets them apart from the angelic host. Others descend to deliver messages, or to fight, or to sing in reverence. But the thrones do not descend. They are already in position, turning only when the divine will turns with them. They do not move to act, they move to maintain. And in their every motion, the universe is reminded that judgment is not chaos. It is deliberate, it is relentless, and it is always watching. Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story. The thrones occupy a place of stillness in the hierarchy, not in action, but stillness with purpose. Their role is not to relay messages, nor to rush into battle. They are not the voice of heaven, nor the sword of divine wrath. They are something quieter, more absolute. They are the seat of divine motion and the instrument of God's judgment, not as deliverers, but as mechanisms, interwoven with the very structure of divine governance. One of their primary functions, as described in early Christian mysticism, is to bear the throne of God itself, not metaphorically, but as literal bearers of the divine seat of justice. In this sense, they are more than servants, they are foundation. Without them, the throne does not move. The divine order does not proceed. They do not decide. They make it possible for decisions to be enacted. And unlike other angels, their function does not rely on being sent. They are already where they must be. When judgment flows from heaven, It is the thrones who ensure it is dispensed without bias. They are not arbiters. They are not influenced by mercy or vengeance. Their nature is impartiality, and their influence is felt in the quiet, irreversible fulfillment of order. It is said that they process the intentions of both angels and mortals, refining them as a lens refines light before anything can ascend to the higher spheres. What is unclear, selfish, or impure is scattered before it reaches the seat of command. Their personality, as much as the term can apply, is alien to human understanding. They are not described with passion or even reverence. They do not rejoice in their work, nor do they question it. Thrones do not praise, they do not mourn. They do not reason in ways familiar to any soul shaped by flesh. They simply exist within the directive of divine balance. Silent, steady, precise. Their detachment is not cruelty, it is necessity. It is through this emotional distance that they maintain their function. Were they to sympathize, to feel moved by plea or pain, their alignment would fracture. The cosmos does not rest on empathy, it rests on structure, and the thrones are the structure through which divine balance holds. In every tradition that includes them, this is their essence. Their presence alone is said to be a purifying force. Wherever they move, falsehood dissolves. Wherever they remain, the weight of unspoken judgment is felt. This is not the judgment of fire and sword, but of reality aligning itself back into balance. A soul out of order might crumble in their proximity, not from violence, but because it cannot bear the truth of itself under their gaze. Beyond purification, their power is alignment. They are said to govern the structure of universal motion, natural law, metaphysical order, moral reality. What is broken begins to correct itself in their wake, not immediately, not through spectacle, but through unseen pressure, like gravity bending all things back to their center. Unlike angels that intervene through acts, the thrones influence by presence. Their motion is never wasted, their gaze never distracted. They are not the answer to prayer, but they are often the reason prayer reaches its destination. When the heavens shook with rebellion, and a third of the angels turned their gaze away from heaven, the thrones did not waver. At least, that is how most interpretations tell it. The thrones, those quiet ancient arbiters of divine order, were not made to choose sides. They were made to uphold law. Even as heaven divided, they held their ground. Unlike the warriors who fought or the fallen who dreamed of something more, the thrones never acted out of will or rebellion. They did not draw swords. They did not join councils. They did not plead with the rebels to stand down, nor did they cry out for their destruction. If they moved at all, it was only to reinforce the structure that Lucifer sought to unmake. The fall was not a moment of impulse or chaos. It was a slow unraveling of hierarchy, of trust. Lucifer, once among the brightest, sought to rise above the throne rather than kneel before it. And in that act, the architecture of heaven trembled. The thrones positioned nearest to the divine authority became witnesses to ambition turned inward. Some traditions suggest the thrones observed every step of Lucifer's descent, that they recorded his defiance, not with judgment or sorrow, but with the same neutral attention they give all things. Their many eyes always open missed nothing. Pride, persuasion, betrayal, it was all seen. There are speculative writings, some from obscure mystics, others from fringe theological texts, that propose a darker possibility, that a small number of thrones may have faltered. Not by joining Lucifer's cause, but by hesitating, that in their endless task of balancing order, they paused to question whether the rebellion itself could be part of that balance. That perhaps, in that moment, they miscalculated. But this remains theory, nothing more. And most established writings hold firm. The thrones did not fall. They endured. They did not judge Lucifer's sin with emotion, nor did they interpret it as a betrayal of themselves. They simply acknowledged it for what it was, a disruption to the hierarchy they were built to protect. After the fall, the thrones remained. Their position did not change. Their silence did not break. The order was damaged, yes, but not destroyed. and they continued to support what remained, bearing the weight of a throne that had just weathered its greatest internal storm. In the end, the rebellion passed, the fallen were cast down. Lucifer was no longer a prince, but an exile, and the thrones never lifted a hand. They didn't need to. Their power was not in force but in endurance, and while empires crumble and angels fall, the thrones remain, unmoved. Because the throne, whatever form it takes, must always be upheld. Among the more esoteric traditions of Christian thought lies a lesser discussed belief that the thrones bear not only the weight of divine order, but also the moral weight of kingship, especially the souls of kings, leaders, and those who wield earthly power. Unlike the archangels who guide or the seraphim who burn with love for God, the thrones, in certain mystical interpretations, are said to serve as the evaluators of authority itself, not in speech or counsel, but in the silent weighing of actions against justice. In this view, the thrones are not concerned with intentions or excuses. Their function is to reflect divine justice without deviation, and in doing so, they assess whether those granted power in the material world upheld or betrayed the order they were meant to preserve. Some writings describe the thrones as the seats of judgment, not merely because they uphold God's throne, but because they are the mechanism by which true judgment is processed. They do not punish, they do not condemn, they measure. And in their presence, all titles fall away, leaving only what was done. This belief was not widespread in mainstream doctrine, but it endured in monastic circles and early mystical texts, particularly during the medieval period. Certain abbots and theologians speculated that, in the moment after death, rulers might pass before the thrones, not for sentencing but for a reckoning. Were they just? Did they rule with humility or pride? Did they protect the weak or serve only themselves? The thrones did not decide fate, but they made clear what had truly taken place. Their judgment was not one of wrath, but of clarity, undeniable and without distortion. Interestingly, some traditions extend this idea to any soul that wielded great influence, not only those who sat on thrones of earth. A judge, a general, a prophet, anyone whose decisions shaped the lives of others might, according to these teachings, pass before the thrones. It is in this sense that their role becomes broader than simply celestial architecture. They become a divine principle, a force that ensures power is always accountable to something greater. These ideas, though never fully canonized, found life in poetry, allegory, and sermons, especially in times of political upheaval. In such times, invoking the image of the thrones was a subtle reminder that no crown or empire lasts forever, that there exists a higher seat, one that watches silently from beyond the veil of life, weighing not what a man claimed, but what he truly did. In this way, the thrones became a kind of divine conscience, not personal or emotional, but fixed and immovable. They do not interfere, they do not influence. They remain in place, their countless eyes open, their wheels never ceasing. And when the time comes, they are there, not to punish but to reveal what has always been true.